Thank you again for choosing Trapp Cadillac Chevrolet.
Trapp Cadillac Chevrolet has been serving South Louisiana for over 50 years. That's right, 50 years. No matter how much Trapp has grown, you can count on hometown feel, friendly service every time you stop it. Our unmatched service and diverse Chevrolet, Cadillac, and pre-owned inventory has set us apart as the preferred car dealer in South Louisiana. We're also known for our outstanding auto repair service, changing your oil quickly and easy financing.
We promise to always give the most in your auto buying experience here at Trapp Cadillac Chevrolet in Houma.
Welcome to Bayou Time. I'm Jacob DeGate, and I'm glad to be joined in studio by our state representative, Beryl Amedee, who's fresh off a special session in Baton Rouge. Thank you very much for joining us, first off.
Well, I'm glad to be here. It's better to be here than in Baton Rouge some days.
Certainly, especially during the Thanksgiving holidays. I know y'all were anxious to get that session over and get everything done. Can you tell us a little bit, I guess, the whole need for the special session on what was the reasoning behind the governor's decision to call this one?
Sure. When we look at the budget projections for the coming year and actually the whole 5 years, they give us a 5-year outlook, we could see that we were facing deficit situations. And so without a special session this fall, we knew we would be coming in April with somewhere between a $300 million and a $500 million deficit. And the way things work right now under our current Constitution, our current laws, is when the state is facing a deficit, we only have two options. You can either cut spending or you can increase tax revenue. And neither one is pleasant, but it seems that in modern times, governors tend to opt for, and the legislature tends to opt for, increasing tax rates or increasing the items that are taxable, because it's very difficult to cut spending when most everything is locked down under the Constitution or at least in statutory dedications. So when you look at the whole budget picture, if the legislature has to find cuts, ways to reduce what we spend, we really can only touch the state general fund, and that's a really small portion of the overall budget. And so that would be like if you suddenly had more bills coming in at your house, but the only part of your household budget you're allowed to touch is your checkbook. You couldn't touch your savings, you couldn't touch retirement, you couldn't touch investments or anything else except for what's in your checking account. It might be difficult. And so that's what we're facing. So the governor called a special session because we wanted to do tax reform, budget reform. And one of the things we looked at during the special session was Article 7 of the Constitution, which is where a lot of the way that we do the budget is set into law, and it's constitutional law. So the legislature can't change any of it quickly. It has to go before the voters. And so one of the things we did during the session was produce a rewrite of Article 7, and that's something that the voters will get to see in March and weigh in on. And we were able to do a lot of changes as far as deductions and credits and special funds. And so I think that the outlook's looking good. I believe that overall, although there were some items that were contentious and maybe not so popular, overall the outcome of the special session is good, and it should benefit the state by helping us to move forward and not facing all of the extreme limitations whenever we have a potential deficit.
Okay, and one of the, I guess, the reasons for a deficit, I guess you had a sales tax previously that was temporary, that was rolling off. Isn't that what contributed to a good portion of that deficit as well? Huh?
Well, maybe in the deficit projections,
yes,
but it really shouldn't have contributed to a deficit situation at all, except that, if you remember not too long ago, there was a vote to break the spending cap. Mm-hmm. And there were 19 of us that stood against that, but the majority of the legislature did not agree. And so a lot of what we wouldn't have spent got spent. And then when you spend too much, you have a deficit. And so that's part of it. Another part of it is that there is a lot of federal money in our budget. Almost 50% of Louisiana's state budget is coming from the federal government, which it's our tax dollars coming back to us. but they come back to us with strings attached, meaning we can't just use it as we please. We have to use it only on what the federal government says we can use it on. And so with a lot of the federal money being reduced now because we are past the COVID relief dollars, we are past the storm dollars, and now we're getting back into a more stable revenue coming from the federal government, it's lower because we're out of these emergency situations. And so all those things combined do lead to less than what we had hoped for in revenue projections.
Okay, and I know you had, I guess, multiple areas that you can tap from when you're talking about taxes. There's so many different taxes. Can you tell me a little bit about the different areas that you can that you could tap into to maybe change something on what y'all looked at, including, I guess, you have the sales tax, you have state income, you have many different varieties.
There are a lot of different kinds, yes. Income tax, both individual and business, corporate. We have corporate taxes, franchise taxes, sales taxes, severance taxes. I mean, I'm trying to remember all the long list of taxes, and it begins to feel like I'm in a scene from Forrest Gump where we're saying all the different kinds of shrimp dishes. But there were a lot of possibilities of what could change. But after months of study and input, the governor put together a proposal and brought it to us of the best case scenario, the most popular recommendations from multiple sources, the Tax Foundation, Pelican Institute, and others that are very familiar with our budget and also the budgets of other states.
All right. I think we do need to take a quick break, but when we come back, I really want to get into, I guess, all that took place. What I guess the viewers out there are going to be the most interested in is exactly how it's going to affect them. And I know everybody is anxious to see how this all is going to play out. So we'll take a quick break. Stay tuned for more right here on HTV.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm here with Beryl Amedee, state representative, who is here talking about the special session that just took place in Baton Rouge. Okay, State Representative, you just got back. Okay, some things were passed that's going to affect each people's out there's taxes. The tax code is one of the things that are particular. I guess the biggest thing is state income tax and how that now going to a flat rate. Can you describe all that was passed during the session?
Sure. Yes, we had lots of good measures, and I think the one that I'm happiest about is the lowering and the flattening of the individual income tax. Right now, we have a three-tiered system, and the highest tier is 4.25, I believe. And with the bill that we passed, the rate for everyone is going to be 3% across the board. And the lowest income earners are going to be exempt altogether because we doubled the exemption to $12,500 for individuals and for $25,000 for married filing jointly and head of household. So those who make the least income won't be charged any income tax at all. And so the plan is in a few years to be able to phase income tax out altogether. But at least at 3%, that puts us at the lowest rate among the southern regional states that do have an income tax. So good. It sets us ahead.
Okay, I know that was one area. You had other areas, I believe, also the corporate franchise tax. That's one that got eliminated. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Louisiana's had a franchise tax for I don't know how long, and it's rather unpopular and outdated, very rare, and it puts Louisiana at a disadvantage as far as being competitive with other states for businesses, and it puts our businesses that are already here at a disadvantage because if they had the same business in a different state, they could be doing better. So we've done away with the franchise tax altogether, and as far as other business taxes, we have let's see, we've lowered the corporate rate from 7.5% down to 5.5%, which again helps us to be very competitive among our neighboring states. And we have phased out a lot of credits and deductions and exemptions, and so some businesses might be upset because an exemption they enjoyed is going away. Other businesses will get some relief, because when you have a lot of credits and deductions and exemptions, it means that we are kind of picking winners and losers.
Sure.
Because somebody gets to get away with not paying a tax, and that makes everyone else have to pay more. And so it's just not fair. Besides that, when we talked about the income tax, I wanted to mention too that we've also doubled the standard deduction for those 65 and older. And so it won't just be the lowest of the wage earners, but it'll also be our seniors, our retirees, who also get the benefit of a higher exemption from income tax.
All right. So I know made some lowering of sales tax, but we were in a deduction, so we got to make up for it somewhere. So can you tell us how the legislature addressed that area?
Sure. So let's see. Whenever you reduce the state revenue, as I was saying before about the deficit situations, you have two choices. You either have to spend less as a government, or you have to bring in more revenue from somewhere. And if you're not going to raise the rate, then you have to broaden the base. And so doing away with a lot of credits and exemptions is also a way to broaden the base, because it means somebody who was not having to pay a tax will now have to pay one. But it means that everybody gets to pay a lower rate. So with, let's see, we also were able to modernize the tax code by adding digital products and services. If you remember Blockbuster, it's not there anymore. And so now everybody has like streaming services at home, Netflix, for example. Well, when you tax those, it's a sales tax. Other states have digital services taxed. And so this modernizes our tax code. So yes, that's one thing some people might be grumpy about, because they say, well, I wasn't paying a tax on that last month. But all in all, this goes into making income tax lower and flatter, and even the business taxes lower and flatter across the board. And also, there was an increase to the state sales tax rate for now. It's going to go up to 5%, and it should drop back down in, I think, January of 2030 to 4.75. So when you combine parish and state together, we're already among the highest in the nation.
Sure.
And this will keep us at the highest in the nation. But for now, until our economy improves, after we get rid of our state income tax altogether, the individual income tax, then we can begin to lower that sales tax rate back down to something that's more level with what other states are charging in sales tax. And we also have removed the severance tax, and that's the tax on things like oil and gas coming out of the ground. There was a cap on that, so that in a parish, you weren't able to keep, as a parish, all of the severance tax you collect. Well, now the parishes will be able to, and this is to help offset the inventory tax going away. Parishes will now have a local option. They'll get to choose, do we keep the inventory tax, do we phase it out over a few years, or do we get rid of it completely? And for those that phase out or choose to get rid of it, the state will send extra revenue, at least for a little while, to offset that reduction in their revenue until they can adjust the parish budgets.
Okay, and that's the one we're talking about during the break, that more than the parish, the sheriff, and the school board as well, they all have to be on the same page on getting rid of it.
Yes,
Okay.
each parish has to make that decision for themselves.
All right, we only have about 25 seconds, but I know, where do you think in the future, does anything else need to be cleaned up in April, I guess? You know?
Oh, absolutely.
We don't have too much time. We have to, probably best if we don't even get into, and that we have you come back and explain it before that.
I'll just say this, efficiencies. We're going to be looking for departments and agencies to deliver services more efficiently, and that's going to help reduce the cost of services.
That sounds great. Well, thank you again for coming on, and we certainly appreciate you giving us the updates. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Stay tuned for more right here on HTV.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights.